to go to the study. Like I'm working there now.
Okay, 100%. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's Holly, are you good?
Yes, ma'am. I just arrived.
Okay, 100%. No, don't worry. You'll maybe hear the dogs running up and down sometimes. That's just what they like to do. So anyway, okay. So we're going to start off HR management today. So one of the things of HR management is that companies sometimes do not see the need for having an HR department because they don't really know what HR management does, what an HR person is supposed to do, and what the role is that HR essentially plays inside of the company. So the thing of HR is that they are actually a strategic partner inside of the company, and they mainly perform a support role to the company. They contribute to the labor productivity. They assist in improving the skills of the employees, but they also have to be accountable for their actions. So they have to ensure that if an employee, for instance, does something wrong or something happens, or they've maybe recruited someone that is not suitable for the job, that they need to take responsibility and either do some training or development with that particular person. So where HR comes in is that it is important for every single manager to realize that the importance of recruiting, selecting, training, developing, rewarding employees, and also assisting and motivating employees. So sometimes managers will just carry on, they'll just expect the employees to do their job, go home, come tomorrow, do their job, go home again. And HR assists in that role of also developing and motivating employees as well. And that is normally something that the managers don't always have time for, or they don't necessarily have the required skills or the budget or the authority to send the employees on training. And that is where the HR department will then come in to assist. So a successful company will normally provide certain benefits. The first one is your primary benefits. So primary benefits are money. Is there maybe a pension fund? Some companies will have share options, so you can buy shares, or you will earn shares inside of the company. Then some companies will also have variable work conditions or very flexible work conditions. So you can, for instance, work from home, or you can decide on what time do you want to work, leave, flexible working hours, like I just said, and then recognition. So they will maybe have like prizes, or they'll have ceremonies where the best performing sales consultant will, for instance, get something, or you can win a holiday, for instance, if you meet a target. And then from there, they also need to provide training and development. It's actually very few companies that do not offer training and development these days. They have career development, and the last one of the biggest benefits I think that a company offers is the company culture and the diversity, their contribution to corporate social responsibility or corporate social investment, and just the diversity of the organization, and allowing the employees inside of the organization to be diverse. I saw this quote the other day of Steve Jobs that said that they don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. They hire smart people so that the people can tell them what to do. And that is what companies need to move towards. So you don't hire an employee to tell the employee what their job is and what the expectations are of them. You want to hire someone that's already competent, that knows what is required of the job, and can essentially work by himself and can also contribute to the business and help the business to grow. So when we look at the HR management and organizational effectiveness, remember that HR should be treated as the key element of effectiveness. It is, they sometimes managers will think and companies will think that they are not effective. It's just a sideline department. It's just someone that we're going to when we have to sort out our salaries or when we have to sort out our leave. And like we've already said, is they do so much more than that. So I've just made a list of all the things that they do. So they help employees to reach their goals. They provide trained and motivated employees. They develop the quality of work life. They also help to manage any change that happens inside of the company. And they are involved in the strategic decision making of the company. So remember that the HR management needs to work very, very closely with the vision and the mission of the company. If a company says that they really want to focus on training and developing the employees, then you are not going to go to the marketing department or the finance department. You will directly go to the HR department and then develop a plan with them on how to train and develop your employees. So what I want you to do is, I have like a little activity. So Lau and John are owners of a small coffee shop, but their coffee shop is actually busy growing, and they have realized that they need to recruit more staff because the festive season is coming up. So they'll need 2 more baristas and 3 more waiters, but they require us to assist them with activities related to the HR function. So first question would be, who in this situation is going to perform the HR function?
Ma'am, did you ask me something? I think I missed that.
Yes, I did. Okay, so with this activity, so we have Lila and John, and they are busy. They have a coffee shop, so they have to employ more people. So who do you think in this case is going to perform the HR function? Because remember, they don't have an HR manager, they don't have an HR department. So who do you think is going to have to perform the HR function?
Between Layla and John.
Yeah.
One of them, I don't know. Let me read this thing.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Because the thing is, remember, this is a small coffee shop, so they don't have an HR manager. So in some instances, where a company is quite small and they don't have an HR department, I mean, can you imagine? It's just the 2 owners, and they might already only have 1 person making the coffee. They've got 2 waiters. It doesn't really make sense to employ an HR person just to look after 3 people. So
Sure.
at the moment, they will then have to perform the HR function. And remember, the HR function needs to be run effectively. If it is not run effectively, then it's going to lose its purpose, because part of the HR function is to ensure that we can quickly employ someone that is actually that already has knowledge and that is going to fit into the culture of the company, that is going to be able to do the work effectively. Because the last thing we want to do is to employ someone that only works there for a week and then they leave, for instance. Okay, so, or we employ someone and then they're like, no, this is not really what I want to do. I can give you an example. I don't think I've ever told you, but my husband is in labor law, and he had a client the other day. So she has she bakes cakes. her business is making cakes and, you know, like biscuits and stuff like that. So she actually employed someone, and in the person's first week, she was late twice, and she also asked for leave. That was in her first week of working. She was already late twice. So that is not someone that you want. So we have to
Yeah.
ensure that when we appoint someone, that we appoint someone that is actually, you know, because remember, we are spending money on this. We are spending time and money on doing the job advertisement, posting the job advertisement, doing the interviews, and you don't want to get to the end and actually have a contract, employ the person, and then you actually made a mistake. Okay, so that's the big thing. So with this scenario, and we're going to continue with this scenario throughout the chapter, we between Lila and John, because we don't have an HR manager at the moment, they will have to perform the HR function. Okay, so HR planning, just like in the rest of the company, where the marketing manager has to plan, the CEO has to plan, HR also needs to do planning. So the planning happens in 3 phases, and I have just put them here at the top. So the first phase is that we have to identify the work being done inside of the organization. So what does every single job inside of the organization entail? Then we have to look at the human resource forecasting, and we have to look at the human resource plan. So with the first phase, identifying the work being done inside of the organization, the first thing that we have to do is we have to do a job analysis. So what we do here is we identify all the jobs inside of the company and what each job literally entails. So from the receptionist all the way through to the CEO. Then we do a job description, so that we'll do a job description to get a good insight into the job, and then we will do a job specification. So a job specification is all the qualities as well as the qualifications that an employee has to possess in order to be suitable for this specific job. So if you, for instance, think of like a I just saw a picture earlier, a rope access person. So you know the people that like climb up onto the ships or up onto the bridges and stuff, and then they'll fix things all the way up in the air. You can't do that job if you are afraid of heights, for instance. If you think of, I know in first semester I did this activity with the other students where, if you, for instance, think of a salesman, if you are going to sell something for a company, you need to look presentable. So you can't go to work in your clothes that you haven't ironed for a week, or with hair that you haven't washed in 2 weeks, for instance. So part of a sales position will be that you need to look presentable. You need to be able to know how to communicate with people. You might need to have an extroverted personality, because you can't be quiet and, you know, drawn back, and the customers have to ask you questions the whole time. Remember that you are selling the product to them. Okay, so the next phase will then be the forecasting. So with forecasting, what happens is we have to look towards the future. So what happens if we look towards the future is we have to go and determine what is happening outside of the business. It doesn't help that we employ 20 more people, but we don't actually need 20 more people. So we have to, the first thing that we have to go and look at is the economic growth. How is the economy growing? Is this business going to expand? What does our sales look like? Do we really need an additional factory worker or an additional salesperson or an additional finance person? Then developments in the business. Is the business itself expanding? Are we maybe thinking of opening a new office somewhere that we have to look for more employees? And then lastly is the labor market. So Is there any skills shortages at the moment? Or what are the opportunities inside of the labor market? Is there maybe quite a few students who maybe just graduated, for instance, with the corporate, like today we have our graduation of the 2019 and 2020 students. So do we maybe have a few students who just graduated with the corporate communication qualification? So we now know that we can go and look for corporate communication students because the next group of students have now graduated, and they will be looking for work. Okay, and then the last one is the human resource plan. So the purpose here is to provide definitive guidelines for the business and as to how the human resources will be provided for. So we have to essentially ask, what must we do today in order to be prepared for tomorrow? If we, for instance, look at the skills shortages, if we know that there is a skills shortage amongst, let's quickly take, who can we take? If there's a skills shortage amongst salespeople, for instance, then we know that if we do appoint a salesperson, that person will most likely require training from us. And this is what I said earlier, that the HR plan must dovetail. So what dovetail means, it means merges or intertwines with the strategic plans of the company. The company can't decide that they want to grow, they want to expand, they want to open a new office, but they are not communicating to the HR department. The HR department is going to be left embarrassed if the CEO of the company is opening the new office and there is no one inside of the office to actually do the work, just because there wasn't any effective communication. And one of the examples that I can give you, I just have to go and look for which hospital it is. I think it's I want to say Grace Masek, I'm not sure. I'll just go and double check. But there's a hospital that the government built last year, and there's no one inside of the hospital. There's no one working because they built the hospital, but they never recruited any doctors, any nurses, any administrative staff. They just built the hospital and didn't think of actually recruiting people to work inside of the hospital. So now the hospital's just standing there with no one working inside of the hospital. Okay, so that as an HR department, that is the last thing that we want. Quickly do not see, okay? I'm quickly going to tell you which one it is. Okay. So let's follow. If we move on to the next thing, is we now have to go and look. Okay, Magoba, let me quickly reconnect. Okay, Magoba, is it better now?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Okay, 100%. I reconnected, so maybe it was just on my side. Okay, so when we look at finding qualified talent, so what we have to do is, on the one side, we have to go, when we say that we are now expanding the company, we need to go and look for more employees. Where are we going to find these employees? We can't look inside of a company all the time, because remember, if we have a company with only 100 employees, we can't keep on looking inside of the company. We need to go and find new talent outside of the company, new graduates, new students that are maybe currently studying, people that are moving from one job to another, people that are looking for a new adventure, that want to grow in themselves. So when we are looking at finding qualified talent, we're going to look at recruiting, and then we're also going to look at talent selection. So if we have now our group of candidates, how are we going to select which person we actually want to ultimately employ inside of the company? So the first form of recruiting is internal recruitment. So let's say one of our employees leave and we now have a vacant position. We can either fill that position with someone inside of the company, which is normally what most companies will do. So what will happen, let's say that the marketing manager leaves, we will then look at the marketing department and we will promote someone into that specific position. What will happen, the person that was promoted, their position is now going to be vacant. So we're going to have to promote someone into their position again, because we don't want any vacant positions. Then if we have looked inside of the company and we really can't find anyone, or what sometimes happen is we do have vacancies available, but no one inside of the company wants to actually wants to apply for those positions. We can go and look at external recruitment. So if we feel like we rather want to get someone from the outside, and someone fresh, someone new, then we will look at external recruitment. So we will then advertise this position on PNet or Indeed, and we will then invite people to apply for this position from outside of the company. What a lot of companies will do is that they will use a combination. So they will first look inside of the company. And if there's no one that wants to apply, or if they can't find someone that is suitable for this particular position, they will then advertise the position on PNet or Indeed, and they will then allow anyone else inside of the company that feel that they are suitable for this position to apply, but someone from the outside can then also apply for this position. So they will, for instance, send out an email to say, so they'll send out an email to say, okay, we have this vacancy available, and through that email, they will then invite anyone inside of the company or someone outside to go and apply for that position. That essentially just means that they couldn't find anyone inside of the company that they feel is suitable for this particular position. Okay, so when we look at the recruiting procedure, what happens is most of the time, a benefit from recruiting from the inside is that you already have everything on file of that particular person. So you will already know exactly what the strengths and the weaknesses of this person is. Is there maybe a department that they would very much like to go into? Is this position maybe in Cape Town and we know of an employee that will be willing to relocate, for instance? Then those are the type of factors that we can go and look at when we are deciding on internal recruitment. When we look at external recruitment, okay, so when we look at external recruitment, there we have to look at who are we going to recruit, where are we going to recruit from, and how are we going to recruit. Makoba, is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, was it maybe your signal on your side as well?
It was mine, yes.
Okay, hundreds. Now I just saw you left and I'm like, oops. Okay, but you didn't really miss much. So when we do external recruitment, remember we have to go to the labor market. We have to go and tap into the labor market and go and look for talent outside of the company. So if we are going to deciding that we want to recruit from the outside, there are different places where we can go and look. The most, the one that is used the most is obviously advertisements. This will be in newspapers or online adverts, like I said, PNet, Indeed. We can also use consultants and labor agencies, so like recruitment agencies that can help us, especially if it's for a very specialized field, like CAs or engineers or doctors. They will normally have a recruitment agency that only deals with medical staff. And then if we have a position open, we can just contact this recruitment agency and then they will assist us. We can also recruit through existing employees. So we can ask existing employees, do you maybe know of someone that will be able to do this job? We can do recruitment through a personal approach, so we can headhunt someone. It's called headhunting. So there might be an employee that you've seen at a competing company, and that is someone that you would actually like to come for an interview. And then the last one is through radio, TV, and the internet. So I've never really, I've, I've maybe on the radio I've heard advertisements here and there. On the TV, I've never seen any advertisements, but the most common source of recruitment will be through the internet, by using the various different websites. So when we move on to talent selection, okay, this is now where we have to select our talent. What's going to happen? It's a process. So it will start with application and shortlisting. Here at the top, we are going to put out an advert on PNet, for instance. We're going to have a closing date of by when we would like all the CVs. And then we are physically going to start going through the CVs. So we're going to look at the person's personal details, work history, achievements, any disappointments they maybe sometimes have in their CV, hobbies, expectations, and then do they comply with the particular position. Then we are going to shortlist. So let's say we have received 30 CVs. We can't do 30 interviews. So let's say, for instance, this position required you to have a degree. We will then remove everyone from the applications that do not have a degree. The thing is that, remember, they don't meet the expectation of actually that will be required of this particular job. So from there, we will then invite, let's say, 10 people for an interview. They will do a psychological testing. They will do diagnostic testing. So diagnostic testing is anything else that we couldn't find from the psychometric testing. So I remember I also once went for an interview where I had to write a test, and it's essentially just like a personality test that they ask you to do. So afterwards, we can maybe ask the person any other things that we maybe want to know from him as well. And then we go to the final selection. So after we have now interviewed all 10 of the people, we will do a reference check, which is really, really important. You have to do a reference check. Let's all, I don't know, I don't think you'll know, but there's this new series that is no, it's just a new series. It's not on Netflix. It's called Dr. Death. So it is about a doctor that was just really, really, really incompetent in America. I think he worked in Texas. So instead of the hospitals actually firing him, because they just didn't want to deal with the nitty gritty of firing him, they would essentially ask him to leave. And he would then say, if you want me to leave, you need to give me a good reference. So he then just moved on to the next hospital with this amazing reference from the previous hospital. And he just kept hurting more and more people. And every time the hospital would ask him to leave, and they would just give him a very good reference. So he ended up with like a lot of very, very good references, but he actually wasn't very good. He definitely was not very good. When I was before I worked at Varsity College, I was in a management position, and I once had someone call me also about an employee that I had that left, and they asked me how this person was, and I said to them, I would rather give you no reference than to give you a bad reference. But when someone calls you for a reference, you have to be honest, because the last thing you want is for them to employ that person and then it doesn't work out. So I'd rather be honest, because just you also know how much time and money goes into actually um, recruiting a person. So then we have to compare our applicants, decide who we think will be the best person, the best fit for this particular position. If they are maybe going to do a very hazardous job, we have to do a medical examination. So some jobs do require a medical examination, and then we will do the job offer. So with the job offer, remember, let's say we now like 3 people. Out of the 10 we interviewed, there are 3 people that we really liked. We will then give one of them a job offer, for instance, and that person might say no. They might say, you know what, I want flexible working hours, I want more leave, I want a higher salary. And if we just cannot afford a higher salary, then we will say, unfortunately, thank you so much for not, but we won't be able to give you a higher salary, and that person will then not accept the job offer. If we have someone that do accept the job offer, we will then send out a contract, and then they will come on for their first day. They'll come for induction. We will show them around the office, do like a little meet and greet with everyone, and then they'll get started. Okay. So Makopa, let's quickly take a break. Let's take like a 10-minute break, and then we can come back, and then we can continue with the rest of the chapter. Okay. Let's all I forgot to ask, is the final mark out yet for the first semester?
Yes, ma'am, it is. I did quite well. It was not bad.
Okay, and did you pass?
I did, 100%.
Oh,
I was,
awesome.
I was also like crossing my fingers, like,
Oh
but
no.
I did.
Oh, awesome.
I
Yeah, because
did.
especially because you didn't hand in your assignment, Moss, I was
Yes.
worried. But
Mm,
yeah, because remember they must add everything together. So I was a bit worried there.
yes.
But if you pass, then I'm very happy.
And I think it was the exam and the eyes, because I did all my eyes tasks
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
test that boosted me.
I think so too. So this is what I always say to students is if you just do well during the semester and you just do all your eyes, then you already have such a good chance. So if something maybe, like happens during the exam or happens with one of your other assessments, then you already have
Mm.
like something to fall back onto,
Because I was
So
gonna get, I think I was gonna get a PD because I got 60 on the dot now. So
yeah.
you
Oh, you
understand that
definitely will.
I
Yeah,
was gonna get a PD, you understand?
yeah. What was your
Yeah.
exam mark again?
74.
Oh yes, yeah, you would have. Yeah, I think you would have. But you know
Yeah.
what? First semester is not done. Now we can work on second semester.
You
So
know, yeah.
as long as you just hand in your things, then we'll be fine. Because it's not like I always say to students, there's a difference between a student that doesn't understand the work, and there's a difference between a student that doesn't hand in. And
Yes.
like if you don't hand in, then that's a problem. If you don't understand the work, we can work on that.
Sorry, ma'am,
So,
about that.
is it your little girl?
Yes.
Oh, shame. She also wants to do business management. That's
Yeah, she wants to
okay,
join
cool.
me in class.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, I can hear that. Okay, so let's continue. So we're going to look at developing our talent. So remember that once we now have the employee who is actually working inside of the company, we also need to go and look at another part of what HR is responsible for. Remember that you don't want employees to just continuously, like I said earlier, just arrive for work, leave, arrive for work, and leave. We want to train them, we want to develop them so that they can not only become better versions of themselves, but also become a better worker or a better version of a worker for the company as well. Because it's not only benefiting the employee, it is also benefiting the customer, the company. So if you, for instance, think of an employee that is maybe struggling with typing, then we can send them on a course that teaches them how to type faster. Or if we have an employee that struggles with how to talk to people, think of like a salesperson that just struggles to really communicate and talk to people. We can send them on a course that will teach them how to talk to people, how to sell something. And that is not only going to boost their own confidence, it's also going to help the company because they will be able to sell more products. So, when we look at developing talent, there are different ways in which we can develop talent. We can do on the job training, so we can do job rotation, where we maybe put them in, move them into another position for a certain amount of time, like 6 months, for instance, where they can train in that particular position, and then they can move on to another position. So we essentially teach them how to do any position inside of the company. This sometimes happens inside of departments like marketing or finance as well, even with manufacturing. So you might have a person that manufactures, let me quickly think, like screws. And then after 6 months or after a year, then you move them on to manufacture bolts. So when after 5 years, they can manufacture a range of different things. Or if you think of a mechanic, for instance, so So we have a mechanic that only, for instance, works on batteries. Then after a year, then everyone rotates inside of the company, and now this mechanic only works on the car lights, for instance. And then after 5 years, he can essentially work on everything that has to do with a car. We can also have job shadowing. So this is where they will then shadow someone else. Someone else will essentially teach them on how to do the job. They'll give them small tasks to do. We can have coaching, mentoring. Then we can also have away from the job training. So away from the job training is where they will then go somewhere to like a hotel or a conference center, and they will spend 3 days or 4 days there, for instance, and then they will get trained on a specific topic. So this can be a lecture, conference, a seminar. They can even have case studies, role playing. We might ask of them to complete some training online as well. And once they've done that, then they will get a certificate, for instance, afterwards. So there's a lot of different methods that we can use in order to develop talent. The biggest problem that happens inside of companies, though, is, and that's why I have like this little bullet thingy. So I'm just trying to think what the word is now. I'm like this little dartboard. Yeah. So what sometimes happen is that companies are just seeing developing talent as a shotgun approach. So what that means is that they just want to do the training in order to tick a box, to say, listen, we've done this, we have done training, we've sent all 50 of our employees on training, but no one really benefited from the training. So we have to go and either develop our own training or really use our budget and spend it on training that will increase the value inside of the company. If we are going to spend money on training, we have to ensure that it's going to create value in the long term, and that it's going to benefit the employee as well as the company itself. So what we have to do is that we sometimes need to ask the employees, where are you struggling? Where can we help you? And then match that according to the different seminars that we have that's running this year, and then say to them, you can go and attend this and this and this seminar. So for instance, what we're doing at Varsity College is we have some lecturers that will say, you know what, why don't you come and sit into my class one day? So me as a lecturer are invited to go and sit into another lecturer's class just to see how they lecture. What do they do differently than what I am doing, for instance? And that is another way of just expanding my own knowledge in terms of maybe there's something that I pick up from them that I can use in my classes, for instance. Another thing that we can use as well is performance appraisal. So what happens with performance appraisal? So this is where we can use performance appraisal to determine what training does the employee need. So we'll look at which areas that they do very well, in which areas that they do okay, so they just complied with it, and then in which areas that they not do well at all. For instance, in mine, when I used to do when I used to have performance appraisals, my biggest issue would always be is that I do not like change. I still don't like change. So I had to learn how to adapt to change. If something happens, I had to learn how to be okay with that thing happening and how to manage the change itself. So what are the objectives of a performance appraisal? The first one is that it is a basis for financial rewards. We want to reward our employees that are doing well. We can also determine if an employee can be promoted. So maybe we have an employee that's been in this job for 5 years. They have mastered everything that is expected of them in this job. They are essentially getting bored. There is a position open, and we can now promote this specific employee into this position. And we can also provide them with feedback on their performance. So we can say, from your performance appraisal, I can see that talking to other people is still lacking for you. I can see that you're really struggling with it. And we do have some training available throughout the year that you can do, where you can learn how to talk to people. The next thing that we have to do as an HR manager is that we have to retain our talent. So when we retain our talent, we have to try and keep the employees that we have. It is really expensive, like we just said, to look for new employees every time, to fill positions. We don't want our employees or our company to look like a revolving door where someone just works there for 6 months, then they leave. We get someone else, they're there for 4 months, they leave, because we have to train them from scratch every single time. So when I started at BACC College about a year ago, about 8 years ago, they said to us that it takes normally about a year to train you on everything inside of the company or inside of what is expected of your job. So it takes you about a year to get to know every single scenario, to go through every scenario, you need to do a whole calendar year. And then when you get to the next year, you can actually start effectively working inside of your job. That first year, you are literally just training, getting accustomed to the different scenarios, getting accustomed to what is expected of you. So one form of retaining our talent is through compensation. So we can have direct compensation, which is our salaries. We have indirect compensation. So this is any benefits that we maybe can offer them as well. Maybe we have pension funds. We have medical aid as well. Like we said earlier, we can have, they can maybe gain shares inside of the company. A lot of companies, if you work for them for 5 years, you get like a little incentive. So employees don't really want to leave after 4 years because they know if I just stay 1 year longer, I will get an additional incentive, for instance. We can also have different rewards. So some of my friends who work in other companies, they have like holidays that they sometimes win, which I think is so awesome. So there might be a game farm that the company owns, and you are welcome to go to the game farm for cheaper. If you are, like one of our friends is a flight attendant, so she and her husband can fly for free a certain amount of times a year, for instance. And those are all that additional rewards that you can get from a company. Then what is the amount of compensation? So when we look at the salary for an employee, how do we determine what the salary for an employee will be? The first thing that we can do is we can go and look externally. So we can do a salary survey. We can look at what this job, what is the salary that is offered to this job at other companies, for instance. We can do a job evaluation. So we can look at what is expected of this person. And then the last one is a factor comparison. So what a factor comparison is that you look at the job that is compared. So the job is compared according to the demands that is made on the employee. So I think, for instance, sorry, I'm just quickly telling the dogs to stop walking around. Shh, shh. Okay, so what a factor comparison is, think of an employee, for instance, that has to work for 6 weeks away from home. So that is someone that would expect a higher salary because the demands on them is so much higher. Or think, for instance, of a miner or someone that works at sea, or someone that is a logger that cuts down trees, for instance. So the physical demands of that job is quite a lot. So that person should need a higher salary. So maybe like a minor, for instance, qualifications wise, they don't need honors and a master's, but the physical demands on that person is a lot, and that is what they are supposed to be compensated for. So what I quickly want you to do, let's Walu, I'm going to give you this activity to do, but you don't have to do all of them. So let's do the first two. So I want you to quickly go and Google a vacancy for a fabric buyer, and then also Google a sales consultant. Then I want you to look at what salaries do these jobs offer. So what is the salary for a fabric buyer and a sales consultant? Then what additional benefits does this job offer? So is there a pension fund, medical aid, for instance? Is there a lot of advertisements for this particular job? And do you think that the duties and responsibilities that comes with is actually matches the salary that is offered by this job? So I'm going to give you like 10 minutes to quickly do this. And then we can come back and then we can discuss it. So you don't have to, so maybe choose any of these two. So fabric buyer, sales consultant, graphic designer, a junior draftsman, or an au pair. So choose any two and just quickly answer these questions. Hi, let's Wally. Sorry, I also just wanted to reconnect. I saw that not all my files were sharing, but everything is fine now again. Okay, okay, let's Walu. How far are you more or less?
I'm busy with my second job,
Second
and
one.
I'm doing the third question.
Okay, 100%. So I'm going to give you like 5 more minutes and then we can quickly chat about it.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, let's order. Are you done? If you are done, what will be easier is if you maybe just post it in the comment section, and then I will read it from there because I know you're struggling with your mic at the moment. I'm struggling to hear you, Letiwada. I just heard you, but now you're gone again. There you are. I can hear a little bit.
You can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so which two jobs did you choose?
I chose sales consultant and graphic designer.
Okay, so what salaries could you find for sales consultant?
So for the sales consultant per month, it's 8,330. But then that's something I came up with because I got the annual one and I just divided it by 12.
Oh, okay, 100%. So
Can you hear
8,300
me?
more or less.
Yes. And
Okay.
then the benefits, I said commission because I feel like they don't have much benefits at like
Mm,
being a sales consultant besides the fact that you can get commission apart from your basic salary if you have a basic salary.
yeah, okay, I understand. And then were there a lot of advertisements for a sales consultant?
Yes, oh my God, a lot. Even on LinkedIn, there's a whole lot.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And then, do you think, so did you look at the duties and the responsibilities, and then do you think it matches the salary or not really? Do you think it's too little?
I think it does. I mean, you just have to like get people to join or do whatever it is that your company offers. So for
Hmm.
8K, I feel like it's not bad.
Okay. And you'll remember, like you said, that a lot of anyone actually in sales, they will normally have commission as well. So what normally happens is that they have a very low basic salary, but they will have the commission, and the commission is actually what the biggest benefit to the position is.
Yes.
Okay, and then graphic designer. So what salaries could you find for a graphic designer?
So I found two. The lowest
Yeah.
was 9,450, and the minimum one, which by like it's common, so it was 20K 500 per month.
Ooh, that's quite a lot. That's quite a big difference.
It is. It is. And then benefits, they get bonuses each year.
Okay, so they get bonuses as well. And
Yes.
were there
And
any
then
other benefits like pension funds or medical aid or anything like that?
I didn't see, because that's what I was looking for. I was hoping for something like medical aid or a pension
Hmm.
fund, but I didn't see
Yeah, but
anything
you
like
didn't
that. So
see. Yeah.
I just saw funny things like you get to be your own boss, and I'm like, okay, how is that even like,
Yeah. They
So,
all say that because you know what? People want flexibility these days, especially after COVID. And so what they're
oh yeah.
trying to say to you is you'll work on like projects and you could do them whenever you want. But I mean in real life, it doesn't happen like that because you have
You know what I'm
deadlines.
saying?
So yeah, no. It's a very nice it sounds like a very nice perk, but it's not really a perk.
You
So
know,
yeah.
and
And then
then high
high
demand.
demand.
Yeah, so medium.
Okay, okay. And then do you think duties and responsibilities are matching the salary?
I mean, if I'm gonna earn 20K, I definitely think it is because I'm just maybe designing something and suing it or whatever. I don't know, but I think it is for 20K.
Okay, but the other job that you saw was 9,000, hey?
Yes,
Yeah.
9.450.
Yeah, I wonder maybe the 9,000 will be for a junior graphic designer, and then the
Yes, that's what I'm
20,000,
also thinking.
yeah, it might be for a, like more a senior. Or you know what it could also be is that you, if you probably go and look at the work experience, the one that earns 20,000
Oh,
rand will
yes.
might need like a 5 or 10 year work experience as opposed to the other person.
Ma'am, on a more serious note,
Yes.
like this is my last year, ne? Like of
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So like when